I think that they're really a good team, great, because they got overall good players, but they do the mistakes they shouldn't do at this level of play. I think that they are really good for their scene, but at the moment they lack a bit of experience.
Welcome back to the Season 3 World Championship live from Los Angeles, California. We're just minutes away from the match between Gambit and Vulcan. But first, I'd like to welcome Xpeke and Kaigu to the interview lounge. Welcome, gentlemen. Thanks for giving us an amazingly fun game. I'd like to start by asking you, Kaigu, what was your strategy in that matchup?
When we saw that they banned Thresh, we were kind of happy because Thresh counters that comp really hard because the only objective of that comp is that the mid and bottom, Zilean and Soraka don't die, but Zilean was zoned too hard by the Blitzcrank.
Well, countered by the Blitzcrank there. And Peke, is there anything in the special choices that you say, we might use it because we know Prizu loves that Sivir so much?
Yeah, he really loves her, but we don't let him play her. He's really good with her, but I don't think that hero can be used too much, so it's fine. He wanted to play her, he's good with it, and we let him play this game.
Anything else in that comp, you say?
No, well, actually we didn't pick Blitzcrank trying to counter him. It was mostly about Soa's Blitzcrank, because Soa's placing really, really good, and he wanted to play it, so we were like, yeah, let's play it, and it turned out to be really good to have so much initiation with Sen and Blitzcrank together against them.
Yeah, it was a very fun matchup. On a more serious note, you guys, you're no longer in the tournament. You have still a match coming up, of course, where you're not going to advance. But what have you learned personally, maybe as a jungler playing here on this big stage against all these good people?
Well, as a jungler, I learned that vision control is really important, and it's more. I should focus more on vision control and not on farming.
Okay. And you, Peke, you've really stepped up to the plate here as a mid laner. How do you kind of see yourself going forward and some of the very good mid laners you're going to face? How happy are you with your performance?
I'm happy so far, but I don't know the other mid laners. I haven't faced them. Like before group stage, I was scared that I might not be able to compete with other mid laners or something, because I had no idea of their level, only the European ones. But it's fine, I think, and I feel confident that I could do at least decent or equal against any other, so I'm fine with it.
Okay. Finally, I'm going to let you both give a shout out to your fans because, Mineski, not a victory yet, although I believe, but you have gotten a lot of fans here. What do you want to say to them?
Shout outs to the fans here and to the fans back at home. I love you.
Peke, is there anything you want to say to the fans?
Yeah, they are great, but they never sound fanatic here. I don't know. They always sound Mineski or TSM or something like that. See?
Nah, they're not going to do it now either. Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen. Now let's send it over to Quickshot and Freak for some more group stage action.
Thank you very much, Sharks, and welcome everybody. I am Trevor Quickshot Henry. And joining me in this broadcast dual lane is, of course, David Freak Turley. How you doing, dude?
I'm doing awesome. I'm excited to cast the rest of Group B because we still got some important games coming up,
Looking pretty in pink today. Now, it is time for our fourth match of the day. Europe's Gambit versus North America's Vulcan. With a win here, Gambit will guarantee themselves at least a tie for second place in Group B. While even with a victory for Vulcan, they would need some help from Mineski to stay alive in Worlds. And based on the last time that these two teams met, that's Gambit and Vulcan, things don't look very promising for the North American team.
Yeah, really in the first game between these two teams, it was a 27-minute win, and Gambit just demolished. Diamond was practically flawless in that game, and even though Vulcan has like the killingest player in the LCS, he kept the entire team to only 2 kills there. And for ManCloud, there was no silver lining. He didn't get a chance to turn the game around. He had a pretty poor performance, whereas Alex actually secured a lot for his team. 4-0-1 for Alex TF, 0-4-0, not the best score for the mid laner for Vulcan, unfortunately.
Well, let's get to it and see if Alex and Gambit can trump Vulcan one more time, or if ManCloud and crew can keep their quarterfinal chances alive. It is time to take a look at those starting lineups, and on the blue side, it is going to be Gambit for this match. Darien up in the top lane, Diamond in the jungle, Alex Siege in the mid lane with Genja and Voidal as your AD carry and support.
And on the red side, it is Vulcan with Psycho Sid in the top lane, Smithy in the jungle, ManCloud in mid, Zuna on AD carry, and Bloodwater on support.
Well, we're about to jump into champion selector. And we'll talk about the matchup and how the victories can affect both of these teams as the game starts. But one thing I want to highlight about picks and bans for these teams is they share a lot of common picks. The supports, they've only played Zyra and Sona respectively. We know that there's a lot of love for Shen, Orianna, TF. There's a lot of overlaps between these two teams.
There really, really are. The only ones that are really different, I would say, is the Shen top lane is a possibility. Sorry, not Shen, the Kennen top lane for Psycho Sid. I think that's a big one. And we've actually seen that banned out a good number of times. But you're right, the Shen up there, the mid laners and whatnot, even the AD carries are playing utility-based, with Ashe and Varus being pretty common. I'm kind of sad that we haven't seen a Zuna Tristana yet that I can recall, because I think that was an old style for Vulcan that worked really, really well and gave them some of that late game security that they've been lacking in this tournament.
Yeah, for those points in time, Zuna's been playing Caitlyn, Ashe, and Ezreal 3-2 and 2 times respectively. So he's trending towards different ADs like you've highlighted. The one thing I definitely want to talk about is Genja's Trinity Force Varus. He almost got it finished. And his build choices have been a hot topic of discussion.
Yeah, I'm not sure it was actually specifically Trinity Force Varus. I think it was actually like Phage to kite people, and he's fighting 2 assassins, so it was like get some health to survive. The Zeal was just there for move speed. He was going to go into Phantom Dancer. It just kind of looked like, I actually don't think he was actually planning on Triforce, and everyone else is crazy.
We'll see. If he locks in Varus, we'll get a second round at potentially seeing how this works out. First ban, Zac instantly removed Gambit, taking the one off the table. Vulcan removing the Aatrox. Now, Aatrox is shared between Darien and Diamond Prox. They've each played it twice. But Darien has a 14 KDA with Aatrox.
Yeah, he does pretty well, the champion.
Just a little bit.
It's his style. I actually remember when they first brought it out in the EULCS, I was casting that game, and Alex said, yeah, Darien dies a lot, so we gave him a champion with a revive passive so that he would die less, and as you point out with the KDA, it has worked well. But here I actually like how, I like and dislike kind of how some of these bans are coming out, because Corki is a shared pick and Kog'Maw is a shared pick as well. We've seen actually a lot this tournament where teams are banning out champs that they're happy to play themselves, and it always is weird to me that they remove some of their own options, because you've got teams like Fnatic who have such a deep champion pool that they don't need to do that. They can play whatever they want.
Well, when you see the final ban being Vi, targeting that one at Xmitty. He's played it 4 times out of his team's 7 games thus far. And I think Vi solved a lot of the problems that Vulcan had in that sort of mid to late game phase, singling a target out. And once that person's then just removed from the fight, then collapsing in numbers, because earlier today, they weren't able to control team fights against Ozone's double AD comp.
And it actually helps their coordination issues as well, really, because Vulcan, as we saw in their loss to Ozone today, they had a pretty rough time, actually, of coordinating themselves in team fights. They were getting split up, they would fail some initiates, they wouldn't all be on the same page, whereas Vi would have had this like bright flashing, I'm going in on this guy, hit this dude, and it would have been pretty obvious. Of course, that being banned out removes the option here. The Shen first pick, of course, just gives a lot of options for Gambit. What else are you going to say about Shen? He's been ubiquitous.
The one thing I do want to highlight, not a first pick Zed or Ari, both of which have been left up. And in previous games, both of the champions have been left up to sort of counter one another. It normally hasn't worked out for the team that set the trap of picking into that champions, if I can put that politely. And then, of course, the Sona denying that from Voidal. He's played it 6 times. So not only is this one of Blood Wars mains, it's denying this from Voidal as well. So that's an important pick to me.
And this champ select, at least as far as the picking phase has gone, has actually been very, very smart because of the denials. The Shen shared pick you talked about, the Sona shared pick you've talked about. It's these teams securing champions away from each other. Of course, there's still plenty of time for Alex to now pick his mid laner, but of course we had Mancloud steal away the Zed. Now, they could pull a Fnatic and suddenly run Ahri Zed themselves, or Kassadin Zed as the case was for Fnatic. I think that's less likely here, but you've always got these interesting options here with Champ Select.
Well, we'll see how Vulcan decide to play that one out. Elise and Varus locked in for Gambit, as you highlighted, and we'll get to see exactly what Genja's build is. I am fairly certain he's going to go with this Phage into Bloodthirster into whatever. He tends to be quite sticky with that, but I do want to highlight the fact that Gambit trained towards that Orianna, so we may see that for Alex. Over the other side, Crystal Ball working well, Tristana locked in. We are going to see Zuna on his comfort champion.
So I like what both these teams have now done, because we've gotten Gambit into a control composition, which really I think is their strength. They're a very well coordinated team. Aside from the support roster changing twice, this group has been together for almost 2 solid years now. It was beginning of 2012 they started blowing up onto the scene. And there we go. There's the Ari coming in. So they've got a very well-controlled composition here, as well as the ability for playmaking from Alex, which is important. It highlights the two major strengths, team fighting for Gambit and Alex going crazy, so I like that a lot.
And to wrap up the composition, we see Psycho Sid locking in that Singe. So going to try and channel his inner Looper. Looper's been obviously doing very well with Singe this tournament. We'll see how well Sid can do it in this game.
I imagine he'll do well. Sid's a very strong player. He's very adaptable and actually has one of the, I would say, wider champion pools in North America. Plays differing styles of champions, more so than other top laners. And also to round out the rest of their picks, of course, you've got the playmaker for ManCloud as well, which I think is mandatory for Vulcan. And at the same time, you've got Zuna on the Tristana. Some of the pros actually criticize Zuna's positioning in team fights and overall, and giving him a move block that resets on killer assist, as well as the pushback from the ultimate, will allow him to sit there and auto attack for a full team fight, and that's really good.
Yeah, especially if the game does go later and later with the immense range that Tristana gets into her favor. Will play. I also feel like Vulcan have quite a single target pick focus in mind. So guys, while we're waiting for the game to load up, let's quickly take a look at who the fans have picked to win this match. And according to LOLesports.com, a massive 81% of you guys think that Gambit will lock down at least that tie for second place and actually send Vulcan home packing.
And of course, the analyst chose them as well, so no movement in the standings, I think, at all. Today or even yesterday, if I recall correctly. Everyone's now on the same page. I think you guys at home are just cheating and making sure that you keep that +2 victory.
It's research. We've had this discussion.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry.
It's research, informed research. Well, we've got a second to actually highlight some of the mechanics here. If Gambit do win, and if Ozone win against Mineski, what it does is it puts them in a tie for second place, and because their head-to-head is 1-1, Gambit and Ozone would play a rematch.
Yes, and they would play that right after the Ozone-Mineski game, so we would see that within about 2 hours. And of course, the other cases, if Vulcan wins, then they still need help. Mineski must win for a three-way tie, and if there's a three-way tie, that actually is played tomorrow.
And if we are going to be quite realistic about this one, if Vulcan win and Ozone beat Mineski, it means Gambit goes home, and your first and second seeded teams from this group will be Fnatic and Ozone. But that is many games ahead right now. Gambit and Vulcan on the Rift, hanging out in this mid lane. Gambit a little more stacked up, as it were, but I'm not expecting any shenanigans. As you can see, Genja miles and miles away, starting with that door and shield, which he's been doing several times this event.
Yeah, it's interesting because he's not even against that heavy of a harass lane, but because he has no sustain from his teammate Yordle, it helps him make sure he can survive the laning phase. But as we talked about these sort of level 1 arrangements of these teams, when you've got a line fully spread out, this is sometimes considered a defensive opening, but it also guarantees you know where your opposing team wards, where they ran in to go spot things, and of course as no one plows through the enemy lineup, both these teams now know there's no deep wards, their junglers are actually hidden, and with Elise and Lee Sin being crazy strong early game junglers, no one's going to see them coming, basically.
Well, we'll have to see if that lack of sight will pay in favor of either team, because any early kills onto basically any of these champions could significantly impact that mid-game phase. Genja and Voidal playing defensive duty on this bottom lane. It does look like Vulcan are going to initiate the lane swap, as they've thrown Zuna and Bloodwater up top to deal with Darian Shen. And just interesting to point out, Flash Ignite on Shen, Ghost Teleport there for Singed.
Those are pretty standard pickups right there. Even with the Ignite, Shen has really low kill potential. But the early first 4 levels, if Diamond comes to gank for Darian, they can pick this down. Of course, here comes the invade for this buff, and it's a 2-on-2.
That's a massive amount of damage onto Diamond Prox. We see Zuna, he manages to rocket jump forward. Flash already burned from Diamond. An initial advantage to Vulcan, they forced him away. Now Voidal and Genja trying to play the same tactic, but Xmithy is going to be able to get away with the buff and do pretty well there.
Vulcan played that one a lot better. They showed up in time and dealt the damage before Diamond had dealt enough to the Golem, whereas on the other side, it was just a quick smite for Smithy and he was safe. And that's the risk when you go for a buff with your top laner, is you can get 2v2 there and lose the battle. It's just a matter of getting there in time, and as we saw, Vulcan got there first.
Well, Xmithy's now going to try to steal away a buff here. This would be his second blue buff, refreshing that time, and more importantly, denying it from Diamond Prox. There is simply no members of Gambit here to defend or challenge this one, and it does look like Smithy's going to secure this one. So early advantage to Vulcan, and that's a very good level 1 strat, as it were, coming out of the North American squad.
Very well played there. Smithy, though, just halfway through level 2 right now, had to share the experience when he took the blue buff down, which, to be fair, does help Psycho Sid. As of course, Psycho Sid actually as well got to level up off of some race. So gotta say, a pretty nice early start here for Vulcan overall. There's a lot of things going their way.
So we do see Psycho Sid's going to use that teleport, regen his HP in the fountain, and he's back in time for basically 2 full waves of minions right. He's not going to be able to see us quite as effectively with the Varus and Zara and minions, but he will at least stay inexperienced.
He sees Diamond.
Here comes Diamond from the side. A very good ward is going to allow Sid to at least get out. Diamond Proc's just going to apply some harassment. There's a lot of damage going to this tower very early on.
But compare the location of where Diamond came in behind Psycho Sid to where Smithy showed up. That wave is just now dying, but Alex getting jumped on by ManCloud.
Now ManCloud continues to deal the damage. Alex forced to flash over the wall. ManCloud decides not to chase, but flash burned. No escape mechanism there for Alex as both of the dual lanes plus junglers is hammering away on their solo lane towers.
But look what Darian's going for. He knows he's zoned out of this lane, so he's coming to a different lane to make a play on ManCloud.
We'll see how this works out for him. Darian's hanging out in the river. We can see Xmithy fairly close by, actually, killing off the wolf camp of Gambit. The first tower to fall will be Vulcan, so Gambit with an initial global objective lead, but Vulcan and Bloodwater are not far behind securing that top lane tower.
Here's the chance. There is flash still available for ManCloud.
We do see the taunt does land. Charm pulls ManCloud backwards. Ignite is ticking. He decides to try jump onto Alex. Safeguard comes in from Smithy, and that's going to force Darian and Alex away. Very good timing from Xmithy, and golf claps all around from the audiences. They survived the game.
That was a great play, and of course Gambit has a numbers advantage on the bottom as well. They're taking a very early dragon out of
As
this.
something that Gambit does incredibly well. 4.5 minutes. Psycho Sid has used that ghost. We see a flash away from Voidal. They fling Diamond Procs out. Smite is going to be enough to secure the dragon. The question is, how many kills can Vulcan secure? Diamond Procs is probably going to throw down this rappel just to survive a little bit longer.
No flash.
To pull the people back, and Darian gets out. First blood is secured. We do see Alex is going to follow suit with the aid of Bloodwater. Vulcan, 2 kills to the dragon and tower of Gambits.
That's a great move there by Vulcan to realize what was going on there, show up into that battle. And Sid, of course, when you fight a dragon that low, that's the risk of a dragon at that low of level, is you don't do a lot of damage, and dragon deals a pretty good amount. So Sid walking into 3 enemy champions, normally a suicide. But that was a great play here. So Vulcan equalized that one out. You can see a 700 gold lead actually for Vulcan due to their superior laning right now. And this is the early game lead that is important for Vulcan because they don't do much without it.
Yeah, this is something that we keep highlighting. It's something that, you know, Vulcan did earlier today against Ozone. They got an early advantage, and it was their team fights that cost them. Gambit will be looking to try to replicate some of that team fight chaos and hoping that some single target focus or maybe better communication can work in their favor, because as it stands, Vulcan do have a couple hundred gold lead and a significant amount of CS between Psycho Sid and Darian.
Yeah, and so basically what Gambit are going to try to do to pull this one back is definitely play make. It is the fact, oh my gosh, that damage Darian is dangerously low. He's alive. So it's on Alex Itch to hit level 6 and go be useful and roam around the map and pick off kills. It's on Darian to hit level 6 and have Stand United, and it's on Diamond to be the amazing jungler he is and also help make those plays. Vulcan have a very good siege composition and extremely good late game scaling. Gambit probably should not let it get to that.
Well, we'll see how well Gambit can contain ManCloud. Remember, they allowed Zed to go through. It was first pick Shen over first pick Zed. ManCloud snatched that up the moment he got his chance. 500 gold in the lead on Vulcan right now, and CS advantage basically in every single lane. 30 creeps for Psycho Sid to the 9 of Darian Shen, and he's picked himself up a chain vest, so it's going to help against 3 of the 4 Vulcan members. But if he gets caught up by Psycho Sid, it's going to be a lot of damage that can't be mitigated.
This is going to be really interesting as these tanks scale out, because you're right that with Sid being so far ahead, even though he got zoned out from his turret very early on, as that turret went down, he's just gotten more time to run around because of that dragon fight is basically what had happened. Because members were off the map and no longer able to put pressure on that isolated Singed, he got time to get levels, he got time to get gold, and now Sid can pretty much do whatever he wants. Because of Catalyst, he's able to run into a 1v2 or run into any of the 1v1s and keep being this annoying Singed with teleport up soon and make plays.
Well, we'll see if we can continue to control the map, because that's what's going to come down to. ManCloud is level 6 now, does have that death mark available. There's no one to oppose him in that top lane. He's just trying to CS as best as possible. We see Darian has returned to this bottom lane. A moment or two ago, it was Genja, in fact, that was trying to fend off Psycho Sid. See a little bit of poke going down. Darian taunts himself out of danger. Gambit just trying to reset. You can see Voidal, he's hanging around his own red buff area. Genja's making his way towards that top lane. And with the blue buff respawning, you see the invading.
Yeah, but he's outnumbered right here. This is not the easiest thing for Smithy right here. This should be able to go to Gambit.
So Gambit have got the numbers advantage. However, here comes ManCloud with his ultimate. There's no crescendo available for Bloodwater. Keep that in mind. Blue buff was actually secured there by Alex, so a little bit close, a little bit scary. But Gambit get out cleanly, they don't lose the buff.
ManCloud was a quarter second off from stealing that with a Shuriken. He's of course looking to flank from the mid lane, but Voidal sniffs that one out. Of course, there's ward coverage here for Gambit. This turret dive shouldn't mean much.
Well, there's still a large number of Vulcan members in that mid lane. They definitely set their sights on that tower. You can see them now splitting up, moving away as they really didn't have the minions to challenge that tower down. 700 gold in the lead. Smithy continues to have some very good vision control. Look at the amount of Vulcan wards on the minimap. Yeah. Psycho Sid, he decides to cut this lane, farming between two towers.
And that's exactly what these guys want now, because Vulcan are the team in control, and Singe can free farm this forever and guarantee himself a lot of gold income. And as long as you have ward coverage, you're not going to be that afraid of this, like, not really a gank by Gambit.
Voidal's just coming to help out. Darien is going to at least lock Psycho Sid for a couple of seconds. The root does connect as well. Cocoon not in range just yet. Safeguard does come down. Psycho Sid is going to get hooked up, but there's no ignite ticking, so he's going to be able to use Insanity Potion to survive. Now in the mid lane, ManCloud jumps onto Alex. Deathmark pops. Zuna, in fact, lands the kill, most likely from that explosive shot. And 3-0, Vulcan in a good position to take yet another tower.
The Crescendo actually helped us set that one up as well, and that's kind of what happens when you get that much ward control. That's what you do with the Singe, is you bait everyone to run around and chase you, and it overextends the rest of your team. It allowed Gambit to rush in, flash Crescendo Alex Ich, and chase the kill down. Now, Sid without Ghost or ult, it's going to be a bit harder for him to do that, but it's going to be the same thing over and over. Be annoying as Singed and make plays. So watch this. The Crescendo comes out. Alex Ich is going to take so much damage. And look at the engage by ManCloud. The ulti actually tracked Alex Ich through a dash, which allowed him to get a bit more damage across. Very good play.
Well, always got to remember, when you give away that Zed, you have to imagine that your opponent will be picking it up. And ManCloud making good use of it. He's got a 10 CS advantage. 1 kill, 1 assist to the 0-2-0 Alex Ich. And Vulcan, even with 3 kills and an additional tower, they're only about 1,500 gold ahead. So we'll have to see how rapidly that lead can continue to grow if they keep making these plays.
And I want to know how aware of the map Gambit is right now, because in 14 seconds Dragon is respawned. Vulcan have already sent Sid top lane with teleport, so they've already set up their lanes for a Dragon attempt. Darien, though, is unaware.
Well, red buff is up, and you see Smithy at least lands the Tempest, but Darien got to wait thanks to that Shadow Dash. Not really kill potential just yet. It's a fairly tanky Darien. Like I said, he's now going to get some damage down onto Genja. Doran's Blade and Doran's Shield not really going to offer a lot of damage to that Singe. Vulcan are going to start off the Dragon.
But they're completely outnumbered. It has to be a steal from Diamond, and that's it.
Well, we'll see if we can make it work. Diamond Procs forced backwards. Root's not going to be able to do anything. Even with the Cocoon, Vulcan secured their first Dragon of the game. Psycho Sid continues to be a menace, and this is something that you always see good Singes doing, just completely controlling the map. And once Singe gets ahead, it's very, very difficult to reel him back in.
Well, we just saw Vulcan fall victim to that, actually, when Looper kind of just tooled them around the map and in team fights here. And you look at what happened right there with the Dragon attempt, is Gambit, with the other 4 members of their team, were like, yeah, we can kind of try to contest Dragon and throw skills at you. The fact that it even tried, instead of pushing or pressuring another lane, says they weren't completely ready for that, because they didn't capitalize on the fact that all of Vulcan was down on the bottom side of that. They just said, yeah, Genja, go farm a little bit. That'll do something.
I imagine Genja had a lot to say in that regard. It's something that he does fairly often. Still trying to work his way towards some different items. Decided not to pick up a Phage as his first big item back. BF Sword in Genja's back pocket, but you're comparing that to a Blade of the Ruined King Tristana. There is a significant amount of disparity between these two AD carries, because Zuna's just going to have a lot more killing and kiting potential in these team fights.
It's an interesting build. With the Blade of the Ruined King nerfs recently, a lot of guys have stopped running Blade of the Ruined King Tristana, but basically this shores up the mid-game power deficit we normally talk about with Tristanas, where you've got early ability power damage and you can kind of build your lane out, and then when you have like 2 or 3 items, you're pretty good again. You can rely on your range as you level up. But at this point, you're usually pretty frail. With the Ruined King active and the base damage on it, it's actually pretty decent for Trist here, so this actually holds over what would have been a weakness for Vulcan.
Well, we'll see how well it works out in the team fights. As Psycho Sid and Darien are just trading a little bit of poke, a little bit of damage back and forth. Darien is 30 CS behind 35 at this point, actually. A level down. He's at least he's at least holding up. There was a bit of poke. Psychosid did take a tower hit, which obviously is going to help Darian's cause. Now Vulcan getting ready for this next blue buff spawn. It will be in the next couple of minutes, hence the ring of vision wards or sight wards being set up. Mancloud and Smithy now trying to apply some concerted focus onto this tower, and Alex takes a massive amount of poke.
Yeah, he is. And honestly, Vulcan are doing a very good job of being controlled in this game. You mentioned the ring of vision wards that are out here. They have 3 around the dragon area and another 3 around the blue buff and Baron area. There is no vision allowed for Gambit. The buffs are starting to get stolen time and time and time again. Psychosid's able to roam around whatever he wants, cut behind a lane, fight Darian whatever he wants. He knows there's no threats here. Vulcan are just in control right now.
Yeah, doing very, very well. Psychosid once again popping that Insanity Potion. Just going to heal himself up. Here comes Zuna. We do see the Ghost coming down from Psychosid. He's getting in range, tanking up the tower, flings Darian backwards. Buster Shot throws him against the wall with the Poison Ticks. Couple more auto attacks. Psychosid and Zuna make that look easy.
They did, and that's, again, no wards spotting them coming down. Just a well-played fight, of course, as well. The Goo, the Fling, even the Ruin King active helping to guarantee. Just a well-played fight. Mancloud forced to run, though.
Ignites his pop. We do see Spirit Rush coming in. Alex is going to try and track him. Yeah, Deathmark has just been used a moment ago. Spirit Rush, one last proc. Mancloud does get taken down, but the last bit of damage there. They trade 1 for 1. We do see a tower falling in the bottom lane as Zuna and Psychosid extended to 3 towers. Now Diamond picking a fight with Zuna. This is a fight he's going to lose if he sticks around. He's decided to back out cleanly.
It's just a fight where he's not really going to win. Even though the Ruin King active is on cooldown, Zuna is able to lifesteal between the harass attempts from Diamond, get his health back up. There's no way in for the Russian jungler, so nothing there. And we're back to the control game. Now, for what it's worth, those wards have now all timed out for Vulcan. Vulcan has to reinvest in that ward control game. And keep in mind, those vision wards cost 125 gold. Those 6 cost them 750. You look at the gold lead, it's not that massive. If Vulcan don't capitalize more off of all those expenditures, they will fall behind.
Well, we'll have to see if Vulcan do continue that vision control, because it has been very, very good this matchup. There's been a number of pink wards in the pockets of Gambit for the last couple of minutes, but they haven't necessarily deterred the amount of vision from the Vulcan squad. Now, with that extra kill on the board, Alexic does have his Sorcerer Shoes completed, as well as the Arm Guard and that Fiendish Coda. He's going to be trying to work towards either the Hourglass to cancel Mancloud or the best defense of a good offense and going for a Deathfire Grasp. We'll see what he does decide towards, both of which needing a Needlessly Large Rod as his next components.
Yeah, my guess is actually going to be the Deathfire Grasp. Alex got the Seeker's Arm Guard very, very early on as, okay, I need armor to survive my lane, but otherwise I'm going to go for my build. Because then from there he went for the Codex. From there I believe he's going to go for some more damage output. We'll see if he has to make adaptations, because as we just saw, he did basically trade in a duel against Mancloud. That option is still here just to fight for Alexic.
Yeah, we'll have to see if he can make it more than that right now. Charm does catch onto Zuna. Good damage from that Orb of Deception. Spirit Rush is available for Alex, but without his Ignite, maybe playing it a little bit safer. You can see the rest of Gambit roaming around to the river. Cocoon does catch Bloodwater out. Here comes Darian. Stand Unite is being channeled. A very good Dragon's Rage kick. Shen does not get delivered. Those are flashes away. A great crescendo. Locks up 3 members in the background. We do see Mancloud diving onto Voidal. He's going to get knocked up into the air. Darian is now in a little bit of trouble. They're going to trade support for support as Bloodwater does get dropped, but Zuna is able to pick one up. He stomps down onto Darian. Goomba stomping him with the slow. Darian is now in a massive amount of trouble. Genja nowhere to be seen. Not involved in this fight. Psychosid is going to try continue chasing on the side, and Mancloud with a shuriken does pick up the kill, and that ends up being a 3-for-1 exchange that Gambit started.
That Gambit did start that fight. It was a great kick back by Smithy to make sure that Shen was not on top of his important carries. Bloodwater actually got a beautiful crescendo onto 3, and even at the end there, Smithy peeled off from the chase to try to stop Alexic's recall to get his team another kill. Didn't quite get there in time, but with people still dead here and no Scene United, this is a Vulcan-controlled dragon, so they are rewarded from that fight with a dragon here. Playoff hope's actually still alive for Vulcan.
And what this reminds me of is the very first time Gambit and Vulcan played. However, the roles were reversed. I recall Gambit starting off Dragonfight, being in the river, Vulcan initiating fights that they shouldn't have initiated, and it backfired. Gambit did exactly the same thing in that situation. They're now 4,000, 5,000 gold behind. And just to touch on what Freak was saying, if Vulcan win here, and if Mineski win, it'll be a 3-way tie for second. However, if Vulcan win and Ozone win, it means that neither Vulcan nor Gambit will make it into those quarterfinals. So even more pressure on both Ozone and Mineski in the very next game.
Let's see where this ends up panning out. Of course, we've seen miraculous comebacks as well. We can't discount the fact that you never know with Gambit. They're so experienced. You have to think there's the option they find something special here. So, at the beginning of the game, we talked about the Genja build. The Bloodthirster's there. He didn't rush Phage. Maybe he decided it wasn't worth it. Maybe he's got other plans. We'll keep track of that as it goes through. But of course, you keep looking down at the items. The Zuna power spike is coming very soon. He's getting closer and closer to Infinity Edge. Of course, that Blade of the Rune King done a while ago. There's a lot that's stacked against Gambit.
Diamond Prox once again starting a fight. He's jumped on top of Xmithy. Here comes Alex from the side. Spirit Rush has been used. The charm does not connect. Second proc of Spirit Rush goes out the back. Mancloud with his death mark has been able to completely remove Voidal from the map. Now Diamond Prox is in trouble. Genja is finally in a team fight, but he's alone. We do see a great kickback. Genja gets taken out as Mancloud goes for the double kill. And Vulcan, turn tail, they might even be considering a Baron right now. They do have a numbers advantage. Instead, they're probably going to roll onto this blue buff.
This is a very risky Baron, though, because their health bars are fairly low, even with the Blade of the Ruin Kings. Alex can actually, he will know that people were there because he would have gotten stacks on his passive from the Q, even without vision. So they know not to run for this.
Genja was caught out. Now Vulcan have started off this risky Baron. They have 4 members on there with Psycho Sid. Gonna run a little bit of interference. Xmithy is gonna have to try and dance some of this damage. Mancloud is dropping low. There is a smite available for Diamond Prox if he decides to go in. Baron is at 3,500 HP. It's at 3,000 HP. Diamond needs to go to Spider Form to repel in. Baron gets stopped. Crescendo does actually catch him. I think he repels in. Baron's still alive in the background. It's hammering onto Vulcan. Stranglethorn throws him up in the air. Baron secures 1. Alex secures a 2nd. That's a 2nd kill now for Alex.
And they can go for Baron!
Here comes Darian.
Oh,
He's
it's a
going
ball.
to be lighting it in. That Baron is so incredibly dealing so much damage as Mancloud is hanging around the side. He manages to use the shadow out. Alex is in a lot of trouble, but this is risky.
This is incredibly risky, can you believe it? So 2 members of Vulcan alive, Bloodwater's out of mana, his recall's cancelled, Genja's going for this fight!
The barrier is up, we'll see if it blocks some of that damage. He's going to try and lifesteal a little bit off the ward. Baron continues being focused. Alex gets the shutdown kill onto Mancloud. Baron is going to be secured. Ladies and gentlemen, Gambit turned this game around. They are 2,000 gold behind, but with the stats of Baron, this is an even game.
I can't believe this just happened. At the beginning of the game, it was, you guys tried Dragon really early, and Sid managed to punch with a couple of kills and some map control. And then Vulcan tried Baron really early, and they got punished. Alex Itch putting out enough damage there. Alright, I just gotta stop and think about this, because there's a lot now to think about in this game.
That was a massive misplay from Vulcan. The Baron was a risky decision. You highlighted it before going into the pit. And Gambit able to just dance around Vulcan. The repel so impactful from Diamond Prox. Now, all 5 members of Gambit with Baron on their backs. The item advantage, the HP advantage. We'll see what they do with it, because they are still 2 towers down, and they're still 2,000 gold behind. They've stacked up in this mid lane. They want the mid tower.
And they've got the people there first. Sid's at the very, very bottom lane. Spitting's up at the top. This will be a turret going down to equalize the gold a little bit more. Vulcan is still not collapsing back for this fight.
Teleport is not available for Sid for another 10 or so seconds. It will be up shortly. Gambit continue to focus this tower. 4 members backing away as Voidal hanging out in the background, putting some vision down. Xmithy does get taunted up. No root lands. The charm connects. That is him deleted from the fight. Massive damage from the piercing arrows as Genja continues to spam down. Alex jumps in. He just melts Bloodwater. And now Gambit are onto the inhibitor turret.
Sid's teleporting back to join the fight. He's got to defend this inhibitor.
This is a massive defense here for Vulcan. They flank Darren in the background, but he's their tankiest member. He's just going to taunt out the background. Deathmark is available as we see Psycho Sid gets taunted in. Darian the focus of the Deathmark. That's going to pop. We'll see if he survives. Darian survives. That's Deathmark did nothing for Vulcan. The rest of Gambit now focusing the tower. A snipe from the background, and all of a sudden, Genja and Gambit take the gold lead.
This all just happened. Alright, and here's another attempt. No, they don't catch Zuna. So, Sniper Genja right there making a lot happen. Chunked Bloodwater to help guarantee the Baron a little while ago. Had some really good team fighting here. And Vulcan, it happened they lost to Ozone. It's uncoordinated fighting right here. I think their defensive Baron, I think it was called well to kind of go back a little while. Psycho Sid tried to buy time, tried to zone out Alex H, did a good job of that. The Crescendo had barely missed Diamond, and so the team stopped hitting Baron, said, let's kill Diamond first, then go for it. But Gambit tooled them around in that fight too much. But then this battle was horribly uncoordinated. Pick after pick after pick, one at a time, people saying, I can get a kill and get out. Nope, it didn't work. I can get a kill and get out. Nope, it didn't work.
I tell you what, when you're focusing your ultimates and your damage into Darian, you're gonna have a bad time. Vulcan right now need to get on the carries. They need to deal damage to the people in Gambit that are threats right now. Baron is slowly wearing off. It's down to about a minute left on the clock, and we see a repeat of this potential river fight.
This should be decent, though, for Vulcan. Their major cooldowns are coming up in about just a very, very few seconds. The problem is, though, this Alex Itch split push, he's actually now hard to deal with 1v1.
Oh, he lands the charm. He manages to dive back with Zuna. It's going to knock him back. The Ignite secures the kill. That was a point-blank charm. Is now all of a sudden Alex Itch is off to the side. There's no AD carry for Vulcan if Gambit stick on the tower.
They've got to wait for the wave right here, but they have a 5v4 with no AD carry. None of their... I mean, the ultimates they need for the team fight are available, but they can also make the safe play and just go for Dragon here and get farther ahead in gold.
It does look like that is the decision. Manclad now thinking about jumping onto Diamond Prox, decides to just clear out that Wolf camp after Diamond secures the big Wolf. Now, second Dragon of the game for Gambit. Remember, they had a 4.5-minute Dragon. This is definitely a heavy Dragon control from both of these teams. And once again, Gambit, 1,500 gold in the lead. Diamond almost connecting with that Cocoon.
Okay, so right now Vulcan needs to just calm down for a little bit and realize they have a Tristana on their lineup and the Baron buff is just timed out. Playing a full-on defense game and letting Singed, Zed, and Tristana go infinite is a good fallback plan for Vulcan. They just have to defend right here.
Well, we'll see if they can. You can see that the recalls are coming in. Sid is back in base, but it's late as Mancloud finally returns. Home Guard boots are available. The rest of Gambit hammering away on the inhibitor. Now, Insanity Potion is not available for Sid, so that burst of speed that it gives him on an initiation potential is not there. Flash Crescendo not available either for Vulcan, so this is going to be a hard-pressed defense, but remember, there's no Baron.
There is no Baron buff, but here we go. Gambit in the front. Darien tanking very, very well. Look at Genja. He is so safely positioned that no one can get on him easily. Fight starts. Psycho Sid down a half.
That's a lot of damage. I think that was the DFG thrown onto Psycho Sid. Alex saving his Spirit Rush right now. They've chunked down the main tank to 50%, and they're burning out the timer on that Insanity Potion. So Gambit, happy with the damage they've done to the inhibitor, not feeling comfortable sticking around, back out cleanly. Baron's going to respawn in 2 minutes, and with the way these teams are playing, it may actually be our next team fight.
And it's worth pointing out that the texture of the map has changed a little bit. Just a minute and a half ago, Zuna finished Infinity Edge, which is an incredibly important power spike now, because even though there's a Sunfire Cape, a Spirit of the Ancient Golem, Zuna will be able to chunk down the front line of Gambit. It's something that the Russians need to be concerned about. The push coming in too quickly for Vulcan. They should get this turret, but it's going to be close if they don't run soon.
Yeah, Gambit nowhere near, but look at the chain of corruption. Psycho Sid is the first target. We see Mancloud and Bloodwood knocked into the air as the Crescendo does stun them up for a second, but not going to be enough. Genja should just get popped by this Deathmark. They trade mid laner for AD carry, but now the rest of Gambit are on the hunt. Spirit Rush was used. Stand United will be available soon, so expect Darren to split push before the next fight.
That's going to be an easy option, though, but remember that Psycho Sid will also have his teleport up, and as we've seen time and again, Sid's really built for that fight against Darien. He's built early magic resist. He went Mercury Treads as well. He even went for the, I forget the name of it, Distortion Boots that lower the cooldown of your teleport and Ghost. So for the rest of this game, Sid will actually be able to match Darien and is stronger in the 1v1. That is an advantage for Vulcan. We just saw Alex Itch just completely solo Zuna, and we saw Mancloud solo Genja. Both these AD carries can get deleted. There's a lot of variables to account for that the gold lead won't tell you in these fights. It's actually how the fights are played out that means a lot in this game.
Whoever's able to focus down the damage after bursting a single target down. Ari and Zed both so incredibly good at doing that. We see a Void Staff has just been completed there for Alexic in conjunction with his DFG and his Zonya's Hourglass. Over on the other side, Mancloud with his Last Whisper, Brutalizer, and Blade of the Ruined King. Very standard items, but we do see a Warmogs in the back pocket there for Darren. It's something that we don't see all too often. It has sort of fallen out of favor a little bit.
Yeah.
Genji, of course, working towards an IE of his own.
It's interesting that he went for Warmogs because you can build Red Ruin's Omen against this Vulcan lineup. You're mostly concerned with Zed and Tristana, especially Tristana, to be honest here, who's already got % health damage, so adding armor and an attack speed slow is nice. But Darien's, Shen in general scales off of health. The Key Strike and the Whirlpool Strike heal actually scale off of max health, so he's actually getting some teammate or offensive scaling through his choice of Warmogs.
Well, it was just that little tip of information that popped up. 2 games on Ari for Alexic, 2 victories, and as an aside, he's only got a 15 KDA on that champion, keeping not quite as high in this game, 7-3-3, but definitely the lead in kills for Gambit. 10 out of the 11 kills Alexic has been involved in, and he secured 7 of them, so he really needs to pick off a high priority target in these team fights. You see Gambit and Vulcan trying to find opportunities to battle as both of their solo laners continue the split push game and relying on their global presence to join a fight when it does occur.
But what I'm concerned about with these two split push top laners is their difference in builds, because Darian's works. He's going to be tanky regardless of the fact that he went Warmugs versus Randuin, whereas Psycho Sid is building like full magic resist. He is so worried about Darian, Diamond, and Alex that he's not built to survive Genja if Genja gets time to shoot that Shen over and over. It's a concern that might just bite Psycho Sid in the end.
Well, we'll have to see if it does. As it stands, 29 minutes on the clock. We're getting closer to the time frame when both of these teams have actually been wrapping up their games over the course of the Worlds tournament right now. Once again, Sid and Darian, they're actually swapping sides. They're basically just, it's almost a gentleman's agreement. We'll see them trading back and forth, continuing to farm. Now, Baron is up. You can see Vision being denied. Mancloud may eat a charm. This is going to be scary. We flicked over to fight to Baron. We do see the charm landing. Alexic Spirit rushes out. That should be Mancloud going down. As the Stantonite comes in, that's going to be enough to survive the Deathmark damage. Alexic still surviving in the background. Sid and Smithy taunted up by Darren as now the Stranglethorns will only throw up Sid. But that is great. You cannot, if you lock up Singe, you can kill him. 2 kills for Gambit, and now they turn their sights onto Baron.
And there were a number of outplays there. We actually missed an attempt in the Baron pit by Vulcan. They jumped onto Voidal as he was sweeping out a ward, but Diamond showed up to defend him as well. You saw Alexic win the duel in the mid lane. This gives Gambit control over the base. They'll be able to take the inhibitor down, and they've still got another 15 free seconds. They don't have to risk for Baron. They could take the safe Dragon, but it's probably going to be okay for them no matter what Gambit chooses.
Well, Zuna's deciding to try and play this split push game. There's a line of minions on this bottom wave. We'll see him most likely clear that out and try to get some damage onto the tower. While he's doing so, avoid the idea of stealing one of those double golems as well. The rest of Gambit still stuck mostly around the top half of the map, and Zuna, if he gets enough uncontested time, he may be able to get the tower down.
This is really smart. This is the Vulcan that I've been waiting to see throughout this tournament, is the Zuna split push, because in 1v1s he does very well. He's mechanically very proficient, and on a champion like Tristana, he pushes quickly and gets away very well. And because Triss can kill a base so fast, Gambit doesn't get to Baron without trading out an inhibitor, without some very serious outplay against their opponents. The Zuna split push is actually a very important mark here for Vulcan.
Well, we managed to secure the 5th tower of the game for Vulcan, keeping them within touching distance of the goal. That's 2,000 difference. There's a ring of wards sitting all the way up that north part of the river for Vulcan towards the Baron pits, and the rest of Gambit, they're sort of trending upwards while Vulcan are going to take the safe Dragon.
This is a risk here for Vulcan. They've got to get back to the Baron pit soon, because Gambit gave up going for Dragon entirely. They gave up even pushing more turrets down. Let Zuna kind of rest map control, but it let Gambit say, we've got ward coverage over Baron. Our play, look, you got 1,000 gold, you got another 750 from a turret. Our play is for this Baron setup. We can fight you at this and win.
Well, we do see a Cocoon catching out onto Psycho Sid. The taunt doesn't land, nor does the charm. DFG still available for Alexic, but I think that was the first proc of the Spirit Rush. We'll see if he continues to throwing that out. A little bush. Death Bush not working out for Gambit, and now Vulcan, they think they've got positioning on this mid-inner turret. They're challenging down.
There's a number of important cooldowns down here for Gambit. This is actually a pretty good play for Vulcan with the Singe ult still up.
Well, we'll see once it does get popped. In the background, Cocoon catches out Psychocytic. Smithy only managing to catch that Sonic Wave on one of the little spiderlings, not able to jump onto Diamond Procs, but we do see Vulcan playing a little more passively. They're not rushing the tower.
They're not rushing the tower, but they've got momentary map control here. They pushed Gambit back. Problem for them was Vulcan didn't have an Oracles. They couldn't re-sweep Baron control because that's a big play here. Psychocytic gets caught though.
Massive charm into a root. Now Psychocytic dropped to about 1,400 HP. He was forced backwards. In the background though, Mancloud does have the Deathmark available as him and Zuna are now backtracking away. Darren is trying to get in range. Diamond Proc sinks his fangs into a minion to close the gap. Now we'll see, can the taunt land? That is the question. Safeguards to a ward, and it does allow Smithy to get out cleanly, but a red buff is available, so Gambit going to decide what they want to take because basically everything is available to them.
Yeah, and Gambit are individually more powerful, so when an Elise walks at you or a Shen walks at you, Vulcan has to respect those champions. That allows Gambit to split up the Vulcan lineup and then collapse on a target they need. That's why you saw, even though the fight was reasonably close, Gambit really take control of this one. And now it's again, what plays will these guys make? Gambit are the ones in control. Voidal has an Oracles. He can make sure there's no wards and no vision and play the Baron dance game. And on top of that, Gambit can all jump over walls. They've got flashes or dashes off cooldown. They can bait Baron and start a fight.
Well, for anybody that has watched a number of our games here at Worlds, we talked about the Baron dance in European teams. It's something that they are proficient with, like ballroom dancing in Europe, and we see that right now. Vulcan deciding they want to play the pick game. Smithy jumps onto Voidal, forces the flash out. They're a little bit split. Psycho Sid is in the bottom lane. The rest of Vulcan toying with going down the mid lane, while the rest of Gambit are stacked towards this Baron pit.
Darian's been forced to recall back, though, because the mid lane pressure is too high from Vulcan, but they're setting up a play right here. There's a surround from Gambit.
Well, we'll have to see who goes in first. This is the question. Both of these teams are split. We do see Diamond Frost caught in a little bit of trouble. Stand United was being channeled. He repels forward. A kick back, but Darian is in position. The question is, where is the taunt going to land? Psycho Sid is the first focus here of Gambit as a three-man crescendo locks him up. Genja in the background continues laying down the damage as Zuna forced out the fight. Gambit with an easy 2 kills on the board right now as Diamond Prox is the only one in danger of going down. A root into a taunt kills Mankind, and now Gambit 3 for 0, and Diamond Prox gets away with his life.
And in that fight, both the Assassins focused their efforts on a frontline tank, where while Diamond refused to go down, all of Gambit made sure they killed Psycho Sid. In the resulting 5v4, they just outfought Vulcan, and now with this number advantage, this will be an incredibly difficult Baron steal by Vulcan. It's likely to go to Gambit.
Question is, can they do what Gambit did? Zuna just gets chunked down. Barrier's going to allow him to survive a little bit. 110 HP, flashes the piercing arrow. Alex flashes over the wall. He's going to be able to secure the kill. Smithy falls backwards, decides not to go in 1v5. Another kill on the board for Gambit, a second Baron of the game, and a convincing lead. Smithy's in a little bit of trouble now. There is vision here. Darian, Alex, and Void are going to try chase him down. Aaron's got decent move speed, but Smithy, with that side stone, he should be able to get out. Diamond Prox, can he land the cocoon? He's going to flash forward, a great Dragon's Rage kick. We do see Alex here, that's Spirit Rush forward. Charm doesn't connect, and it's basically running.
Oh, man.
That's basically just popping the ex-Smithy Lee Sin.
Yeah, he is now 12, 3, and 5. Alex Ich, he's on a playmaker, and man, is that guy making plays. Alex really trying to get on in this game right here. And this game is just a reverse of what happened in the beginning. Vulcan made all the best plays early on. They picked up the straggling kills. They took control of the objectives. But with a couple of good fights, Gambit said no. Gambit took vision control. Gambit are forcing all the issues, picking all the fights, and then winning them.
Let's not beat around the bush. It all changed at Baron.
It did.
This entire game swung at Baron, and Gambit just took the reins and have not given it back. We do see now Darren working towards what I believe to be a Randian zone, and they got himself a giant spell, the Warden's Melt, and another chain vest. Definitely more afraid of the physical damage of Vulcan than he is of Psycho Zid's magical damage, and when you consider the immense amount of HP that he's got, I think that's very smart itemization. Genji as well, he's got himself that chain vest. I wouldn't be surprised to see that becoming the Guardian Angel, as it is something that we know the Gambit players do like to do very often.
It's one of the ways they've sort of evolved against teams that have really good late game that defend their turrets well, is let's just build enough defense that we can turret dive you and not get punished for doing so. And honestly, when you're in this game, when you look at Vulcan's wave clear with the Tristana, with the Zed, that's pretty decent actually. And so Gambit, they either get a pick or they just do a very elongated siege, or they just straight up dive with defense.
Well, we'll see how this works out. Alex throws out the charm, just missing Xmithy on the side there. Darian now going to be in position to tank up not only all of Vulcan, but the tower if needs be. Zuna eats himself a piercing arrow in the background, and the tower is secured for Gambit. Vulcan do not contest that at all. Gambit 6 towers to 5 now, then I'll set their sights on the bottom lane inhibitor turrets.
And here we go, damage is coming through. Of course, they still have the Baron buff as well, Gambit. So Vulcan, even with the turret, will have a hard time fighting this.
Psycho Sid, the tankiest tank on Vulcan, is just going to get melted under all of the damage. He does survive thanks to the Insanity Potion. Alex caught out thanks to the crescendo. In the background, Bloodwater dropped to 200 HP, and a very good Zonya's Hourglass allows Alex to stay alive. Genja has not been attacking the tower just yet, as Xmithy is now low. Piercing arrow from the side as Genja plays the marksman that he truly is, spamming out those Qs. The tower is going to drop in the next couple of seconds. There's no death mark available. Now Psycho Sid has returned with max HP, and the rest of Vulcan trying to set up a fight. I believe that Charm caught a minion, not catching any of the champions of Vulcan, and right now Vulcan have not given up kills, but they've lost the tower.
And Gambit are still regenerating, coming back into this fight to continue the inhibitor push.
Psycho Sid, 1,500 HP. You see Zuna smashing away with that immense Tristana rage. Slowed down by the hail of arrows. Darren's just waiting for a setup. He gets caught by the charm. Safeguard's not going to be enough. And Alex with his 13th kill of the game. That's unlucky 13 for Vulcan, as it's going to cost him 2 inhibitors.
And Alex just needs 2 more assists to make his score elite, which he deserves here. so hopefully his teammates can steal some of them out. Smithy lands a Q though. Vulcan are not done with this.
No, they're not. Look at that long-range resonating strike. Smithy realizes Lee's syndrome cost him his life. Now Psycho Sid in trouble as another Deathmark was used it by ManCloud. It's not going to be enough to pop Diamond Proxes. ManCloud's the man that's running right now. We do see it once again. Piercing arrow spam from Genja. He flashes for the lost auto attack kill. Vulcan are 4 members down. Bloodwater has to defend against 5. Ladies and gentlemen, Gambit are going to win.
This is going to be the end game push here. Gambit with an impressive comeback victory. Very well played team fights, good coordination, good control, and Gambit's chances at the quarterfinals stay alive.
And while Gambit maintain a hold on making it to the playoffs, Vulcan are definitely out. Unfortunately, with that loss, there is no mathematical way for them to advance. It's all on Ozone and Mineski. If Ozone beat Mineski, you and I will be casting a Gambit versus Ozone rematch to determine who makes it into the World Championship quarterfinals.
That will also be an incredible showing, but of course you still have to sort of look at this game and say, all right, Gambit, there are some issues you got to work out, but also things to praise yourselves for, because that early game was honestly quite rough. Vulcan had some good reads in that game. They made some really good early game plays, and it took a very miraculous Baron fight to turn Gambit around. They've got to make sure they stop making these kinds of mistakes, because they've still got to win another game.
Yeah, there are no other words for it. There are no other words for it. Every single time this weekend we've seen a team that far behind. They've made that, I'm going to call it a desperation play. I think Gambit going in on that Baron, they were so far behind that if they took it, it got them back in. And if they didn't, well, they were so far behind anyway.
Yeah.
And Gambit made it work. They ran enough interference.